All right, returning to the Comic Book Central Lair today is an incredibly talented writer, producer, director. He is the co-creator of the Back to the Future universe, which now includes the wonderful Broadway show Back to the Future, the musical. Time for some time traveling again with the one and only Bob Gale. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe. And it's not only a Broadway production, it's a London West End production, and it's a touring production. We
Well,
just,
Broadway's like bigger, right? Like that's the
yeah,
big, like you always want to hit Broadway, right?
Broadway is, of course, the gold standard. And never in my wildest dreams would I have predicted a future like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, Back to the Future predicted a lot of things. A bunch of stuff came true in Back to the Future Part Two. You predicted the Cubbies. I think you were a year off, but man, a Broadway show. That's insane, right? Look, the last time we got together, I can't believe this because I thought, oh, I've talked to Bob Gale before. We've had him on the show before. That was for the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future. And now we are mere months away from the 40th anniversary of Back to. How did we get here? It felt like we time traveled. It seems like yesterday.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah, it's the longevity of this story is certainly uh, gratifying and more than I would have expected ever. Nobody knew at the time, of course, and yet it is as popular now or more popular because, if we do the arithmetic, more people have seen it, right?
That's true. Well, that's why I was curious about it too, because as you go by and you hit like those milestones, the 35th anniversary, the 40th anniversary coming. I think this year is the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future 2, if my math's correct. I think in October they're gonna
That's
it's gonna be
correct.
back in
Yes.
theaters
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah.
like all these anniversaries and things come up. Do you find that it's just reaching like new generations, like younger people? And I'm telling you, as somebody who goes to comic conventions all the time, I'm seeing cosplayers now dressing the way I did in high school. Those were my legit clothes. I had the I had the vest, I had the Walkman,
Yeah.
I had the
Right.
two tone.
That's what people wore. That's what
Is
people
this
wore.
nuts?
And
What are you
let's
seeing
face
now
it,
as far as the younger
it's the
generation?
easiest costume you can get, right?
It's true. If you could
Put
track
on
down
an
a
orange
Walkman,
down
right?
vest and a denim jacket, you're Marty McFly. Put on a white lab coat and a white wig, you're Doc Brown.
It's
Very,
perfect.
very,
What are you
very
seeing as far
economical.
as like younger generations coming in? Because I know we talked about, I think the last time around, the comic book. The comic book was out. The animated series was released on DVD. So like all these things are coming in. Are you just seeing younger and younger people coming up and knowing who Marty McFly is?
Yeah. Well, the thing that's so cool is that um, parents are showing the movie to their kids. And I've heard from many adults that say this is one of the few movies my kid will sit through. So there is something really magical about it, and it transcends the USA. We're opening the show in Tokyo in April.
Wow.
Uh, we're talking to people in other countries about opening it there. And the
Wow.
story is just one of those stories that transcends time and culture because who doesn't wonder about what did my parents do on their first date, right?
Right.
Um, how did they get together? Who made the first move? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And it's just one of those things that everybody in the world is going to think about that at some point or another.
Has the meta aspect of that hit you yet? Where Back to the Future is about a story of a teenager in 1985 who goes back 30 years to see his parents. Now, parents are going back and showing their kids what they look like in 1985 and talking about Huey Lewis and what life was like. So these kids get to time travel via your film. Has that meta aspect landed on you yet? And is that part of a future film that could be a
Well,
part another story?
it could be a future. We're actually talking. We're trying to figure out some kind of a 40th anniversary documentary uh, to do that
Okay.
will be different than all the other Back to the Future documentaries out there because we don't really need another documentary about the making of Back to the Future.
Right.
But a documentary about the impact of Back to the Future and about how Back to the Future almost didn't get made, or it could have gotten made in a very different way, which could have would have precluded us from even from you wearing that shirt and from us having this conversation.
Right.
So there is a lot there, and the the meta aspect of it that has been so cool for me is that when we finally got the musical mounted, and I'll get into this a little bit more, um, all the people that wanted to work on it were fans of the movie.
Nice.
And so they said, "Oh my God, this is my favorite movie. I want to work on this. And I'm not going to be the one to screw it up." Um, because they love it. And they say, "Well, yeah, this deserves to be a musical." And everybody just, they left their egos outside the door the way Bob Zemeckis and I would always do. And everybody would kind of get together and say, "Okay, how are we going to create the illusion of the DeLorean going 80 miles per hour?" And it wasn't our visual effects guy all by himself. It wasn't our lighting guy. It wasn't our video guy. It wasn't our sound guy. It was all these guys.
Yeah.
They all sat together and they kicked things around and experimented and tested, and which is, the creative process. It's what you're supposed to do. It's extraordinarily collaborative. I mean, I thought making a movie was hard. Making a musical, um, because you have to get it right every night. It's we make somebody blows their line in a movie. Okay, you're doing take two, take three, take eight, whatever it is. You don't get to blow your line, or if you do, you better make a good recovery.
You better have some good improvs on the
Yes,
stage
yes.
too, and we'll talk about that. Okay, here's the thing. Our 2015 interview. This was the question I asked you because we were talking about, hey, what's coming up? Any updates on Back to the Future, the musical? Your answer, it's kind of on hold for a while. We still intend to do it. That was 2015. When I asked you that question, I had no idea the story behind your answer of it's on hold, we still intend to do it until I purchased. And if you're watching the YouTube channel, the version of this, it's called Creating Back to the Future, the musical. This was the book your team hooked us up, my wife and I, very nicely with some tickets to the Broadway show. We had a nice matinee. I definitely grabbed this on the way out the door. This story deserves its own, I think, Broadway production. It is unbelievable when you're getting into this. I have to mention, give credit to authors at Michael
Clastron, Michael
Klastron.
Clastron,
He's
and he's
documented
sort
the
of the
entire,
official.
yeah,
Yeah, that
I'm holding
and
up on the YouTube channel, the Back to the Future, the official book of the complete movie trilogy. And he's got, I think, the
ultimate
ultimate,
visual history. So he's
yeah,
basically the historian of Back to the Future.
right. He's
He
been there.
was
He knows where all the skeletons are buried. He knows where
yes,
everything is going on.
yep.
He is torn into this musical like I can't even imagine anything more detailed. I want to go back a little bit because the book it sort of tell the story. So let's go back a little bit in time to 2005. Your Back to the Future partner, acclaimed director Bob Zemeckis, he's out with his lovely wife Leslie to see the producers, I believe, on
Yes,
Broadway.
yes,
And
exactly.
is this sort of the genesis of this? Can you tell?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
because it talks
They're
about that in the
walking out.
book.
They're walking out of the show, which is great. And Leslie turns to Bob and said, "Hey, have you and Bob ever thought about making a musical out of Back to the Future?" And Bob kind of said, "Well, no, but um, when we get back to California, I'll give Bob a call and we'll kick it around." And it was what was nice about this idea was that it came from a place of love. Um, it wasn't somebody saying, "Okay, let's milk the franchise some more,"
Right.
because we don't let that happen.
You've had
We're
every opportunity to do that. Everybody's brought you reboots, prequels, all the pitches, and you've both said, nope, not going to happen.
No, we're not doing that because
Yeah.
the short answer is you don't sell your kids into prostitution. But you
It's a
know,
perfect film. It's a perfect trilogy. Yeah.
we're cognizant of the fact that it's a product of its time. There's no way we're going to do it any better.
Hmm.
We told a complete story in the three movies. We told a complete story in the first movie, and there's no there's no reason to do it anymore. Um, there's so that's why the idea of doing a musical was, hey, this is a way to revisit the story in a fresh way. It gets us a little bit out of our comfort zone because Bob and I didn't have any experience in musical theater, even though we really enjoy it, but we didn't have any background at all in it other than my working on Guys and Dolls at our high school musical way back in 1969. Um, uh, and so it was, yeah, this could be an interesting way to revisit the story of the first movie without any of the diehard fanatics or even the not so diehard fanatics saying, "Oh, they're screwing up the franchise.
They
Oh,
ruined my childhood.
yeah, exactly. The canon has been shattered." No,
Yes.
nobody's going to confuse the musical with anything else. It is
Right.
what it is. It's like going to see um, Back to the Future in concert, where we have a live orchestra
Right.
play the score, and uh, Alan composed 15 or 20 minutes of extra music because people are going to hear a live orchestra. And in the movie, there's no score that comes in until we get to the Twin Pines Mall.
Right.
So we needed to put some music in the first 15 minutes, and he did. And doesn't, it doesn't hurt the movie. It doesn't hurt the experience because you're there. And this is the interesting thing. The audience is totally cognizant of why they are there. If it's Back to the Future in concert, they know they are there to hear a live symphony orchestra. If they go to the musical, they know that they are there to see live performers on stage singing and dancing, breaking out into song and dance. And, you know, things might go wrong, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And they do. We've had show stops or we've had glitches or something. And on a certain level, the audience loves that. They love
Yeah.
to see how do they bounce back from this? What are
Right.
they
It's
going to
when
do?
Carson used to flub a joke on it was 10 times funnier when Carson would flub a joke back in the old
Yes,
Tonight
yes,
Show. Right.
yeah, yeah. So that's the sort of the contract that everybody makes when you buy a ticket to the musical. You understand that you are going to see, real live human beings doing this
Right.
for you. And it's it's not the same as going to the movies where you
Right.
would expect it all to be, they better get this right, right? They better not screw this thing up.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's interesting you say that too because we saw it, and my initial thought was when we mentioned it was like, oh, it's cute. I mean, it's in a way to extend the franchise. We'll see what they do. I doubt they're going to get even close. That was my thought. There's no way they can get even close, but it'll be cute. It'll be fun. It'll be some songs. Boy, was I wrong. Man, was I wrong. It was not only like seeing Back to the Future for the first time, that feeling you come out of, oh my, what did I just see? You've
That's
recreated that somehow.
that's what
But
we wanted. That is
yeah,
absolutely, in a nutshell, what we wanted. Because
yeah,
my feeling about what people say, I want to see Back to the Future Part 4. That's not what they want. They want to
right.
see something that makes them feel as good as they felt the first
Yeah,
time they saw Back to the Future. And
yeah.
this is as close as you can get.
That's what we felt that coming out, and I just said it's good I don't live in New York because I'd be seeing this on a loop every night and I go broke. But the other aspect of it too was that fans like myself who grew up with this film know it so well that there are so many moments throughout. So even though you're getting this fresh experience in a different media, there's so many of those elements that bring a tear to your eye, that make you smile, that lift you. I mean, all the things that hit in the movie hit here. And in some ways, maybe even hit harder because it is a live performance. I got to ask you about that decade. So the first, Leslie says, "Hey, you guys should do a Broadway musical." And you go, "Yeah, we should do a Broadway musical." Like 10 years later, can you talk about that decade? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
perfectly
yeah.
laid
No,
out in the book.
it's
But you
interesting.
guys ran into some crazy stuff.
Well, this is what's hilarious, um, in a perverse way, I guess. But it's funny looking back on it. At the time, it was depressing.
Yeah, because I think
Um,
that's when I asked you, and you were like, "It's on hold for a little while. We'll get there."
it was really depressing. I mean, so when we made the movie, I came up with the idea in August of 1980, uh, when I found my father's high school yearbook at my parents' house. Right, it's talked about in all the books, and so I pitched it to Bob Zemeckis. He loved it. We pitched it to Columbia Pictures. They immediately put us to work. Um, Nobody wanted to make it. The project had been was rejected like 42 times. Okay. 42 companies said no. Um, Bob goes off and he makes Romancing the Stone. Everybody wants to be in business with Bob Zemeckis because
Right.
it's a hit. He says the movie I want to make is Back to the Future. We go to the one guy that we have the most loyalty to, Steven Spielberg, who just started Amblin Productions, and we were the first non-Spielberg Amblin movie to be made. Okay, so by 1990, by May 1990, we had made all three movies. 10 years later, from 1980, thinking of the idea, to 1990, we made three movies. Okay. Thinking of the idea, 2005 to 2015, we are nowhere. We
Nothing.
are absolutely nowhere. And the thing that was the thing that was infuriating, because my wife was saying, oh my God, this is a slam dunk. People are going to
Yeah.
be lined up around the block to go into business with you guys and make this show. No, no. They were like, oh, okay, well, maybe you can make a musical, but what makes you think that you guys could do it? You've never done a musical before.
Yeah.
We were not in that club. And we had we had producers come to us and say, yeah, we'd love to do it, but what we want to do is we want you to give us a license to the material and we'll develop it with our own people. And, we said, no, that's not going to happen. Um, and so it was just, if anybody's going to screw this up, it's going to be us because we're not going to lose sleep over the fact, oh my God, if only we did this, only we did that. Well,
Yes.
so the thing that happened that made it all change, all the producers that we were meeting were our contemporaries or people that might be a little bit older. Well, so we meet Colin Ingram, um, who produced Ghost, the musical, with Glenn Ballard. And Glenn called me up after working with Colin for a while. I said, I found the producer for our show.
Yeah,
Well,
Glenn and
Colin was
Alan Sylvester had been writing the music, had been working on the music. Alan Sylvester obviously did the
right, right. They did the
score for the
music for
films.
Polar Express. That's
Right.
where the songs for Polar Express. That's where
Yeah.
they got together. So
Yeah.
when Bob and I decided we were going to do this, it was always Bob Zemeckis, Bob Gale, Alan Silvestri, Glenn Ballard. We were called ourselves the core four, and that was unbreakable. We were not, no way this show is being made without all four of us, uh, on having creative control over it. Well, Colin saw the movie when he was, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that. So he was a fan,
Hmm.
and his mentality of it was different than these, veteran producers. Not that Colin hadn't had producing experience, but he wasn't of the same category as some of these guys, but he had the energy, he had the passion. And so we signed up. We said, okay, let's run with this. And we had a false start. with a director that didn't work out. Um, he wanted to take a hand in writing the book. He wanted to fire Alan and Glenn and bring in his own people, and that was a deal breaker. And
Yeah.
so we jettisoned him and took a deep breath. And as the book explains, and again, this is Glenn Ballard being really shrewd. He said, Alan and I've written all these songs and nobody's ever heard them except for you two guys. Let's do a showcase. Let's do 8 or 9 or 10 songs. Let's put them on in a venue. Let's get real good singers. Let's get, a little band together and let's invite our friends and a whole bunch of Back to the Future fans. And let's see how this stuff is received and universal. And it was received brilliantly. It was great hearing this stuff. It gave us new energy. It really motivated us. Say, yeah, okay, this stuff is funny. People are enjoying this. We can make a move. We can make a show. Let's put on a show.
That's like
And
the old times. What was
yeah,
it that you felt got you over the line? What was it that sort of triggered that went, we got this?
well, what happened was we videoed that showcase,
Yeah.
and Colin came to it, and Colin's option had expired, and we were not sure are we going to stick with Colin or not. But Colin came because that's how much he believed in it. He bought a ticket to come back over from London, and he was he was just really, really passionate about it. And we had this video, and Colin said, "Look, now that we have a video, now that directors can see what it is that you guys have in mind." Because prior to that, we thought a director was going to help us figure it out. And then we realized, you know what? We don't need any help about what it is. We need help from somebody that understands theater and can help us with the translation. And Colin found a director named John Rando, who is a lovely man, brilliant director, and a walking encyclopedia of musical theater, and a big fan of the movie. And we had a meeting with him, and he grabbed me by the shoulders and he said, "Bob, I love these characters. I'm going to take really good care of them. Please, you got to give me a shot at this." And I said, "Okay." So that turned out to be the tipping point, the turning
Wow.
point to say, "Okay, yeah, here's a guy who gets it. He understands. He doesn't want to reinvent the wheel here." Because, quite frankly, you meet people or you hear about people in theater, and they're not just directors or producers, and they're not just thinking about directing and producing. They're thinking, how can I get a songwriting credit on this? How can I get a book writing credit on it because of royalties? Um, this was a show where everybody stayed in their own lane. John was the director, Colin was the lead producer. You know, um, Bob and I shared book authorship. I actually wrote the book, and Bob and I collaborated on figuring it out. And Alan and Glenn shared music and lyrics. And nobody was looking for extra credit on anything else because, a lesson I learned from the movie business, if you are going to split up a pie, um, there's either going to be enough pie for everybody to get a piece, or there's not going to be any pie at all. And so, you want, you know, 15% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Right. Now let's get into the show itself. And I don't, for people who haven't seen it yet, I don't want to spoil too many things, but I do want to talk about some things that maybe enhance, in case people are on the fence about going. I will say I've got to give credit where credit is due. In full disclosure, when we went to go see it, it was a matinee. Look, there's understudies all the time. Things happen on Broadway. Somebody's out of town. Somebody gets sick. Something comes up. somebody comes in who's been prepared for the role. When we saw it, the role of Doc Brown, I got the actors here will be, and I don't know how many of these you've seen. I don't know how many times you've seen the show. Blakely Slaybaugh
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
played Doc
Blakely.
Brown.
He's very
Oh,
good. Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
and Will Branner played George McFly,
Yes. Will
and
did a good
Jonalyn
job.
Saxer played
Played
Lorraine Baines
Lorraine.
McFly.
I've
I've
seen
got to
I've seen
say,
all of them. I've seen all of
okay,
them in in those roles. Yes, I
yeah,
have.
because I
Yeah.
know some of the originals, were that, but for whatever reason, they were mind blowing. She looked exactly like Leah Thompson. Crispin Glover, dead on, perfect. And then for Doc Brown, it was unbelievable. And the amount of dialogue. And so we kind of waited afterward. You wait outside the stage door and see who comes out and they, sign the program and such. And was it Blakely? Yeah, Blakely came out and I asked him, I said, how much notice did you get? And he said like an hour. I think he has like six of the roles prepared to go on.
Yes, that's
He
right.
knocked it.
These guys are so talented. They're the swings. Um, Blakely can play almost any. Well, he doesn't play. He never plays George McFly, and he never
Right.
plays Marty, but he'll play Doc. He's played
Oh,
Dave McFly before. He's
yeah.
never played Biff, I don't think. And then he'll play any of the roles in the ensemble. Play Strickland. Um, yeah, these people are incredibly
Knocked
talented.
it out of the park. I can't even imagine somebody else as Doc Brown. I hadn't even seen the original, but it was like he was so perfect as Doc Brown. And then just sort of breaking the fourth wall, he'd kind of glance over at the audience, and there's all the in jokes and his time. I mean, look for anybody. So even if you get an understudy, they are flawless when you go into these things. And what I loved about the music too, and maybe you could talk a little bit about this, is because I was like, well, you got Huey Lewis, obviously, you've got Johnny B. Good. Those are the low hanging fruit. How are they going to flip this thing into a musical? It was so interesting of taking the catchphrases, like iconic catchphrases, was like future boy, got no future. Hello, is anybody home?
Right.
Got to start somewhere is a showstopper in this. And another showstopper, it works. The Doc Brown, when he says it works, can you talk about flipping those into songs and what you thought of when you first saw this all come together?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, when we were getting started on this, we all sat down, with the movie script, and we kind of went through it and said, okay, there's probably a song belongs here, song belongs here, maybe a song belongs here. And the interesting thing about musical theater is the song can be the equivalent of a close-up. So one of the great Bob Zemeckis' favorite his favorite number, not just song, because the way that John Rando staged it is the bedroom scene with Marty and Lorraine. When Marty wakes up, Mom, is that you? Song is called Pretty Baby. And when you watch the movie, the performance that Leah Thompson gives is absolutely phenomenal. And if you haven't seen the movie in a long time, because usually you're just kind of watching the scene, you're watching Michael J. Fox, but watch that scene again and just stare at Leah Thompson because I have no idea what reserve of talent and experience she was drawing on to do what she does. But the stuff she does with her face and with her eyes. Now, we can't do that musically. We can't do that on a stage. You can't see her face as clearly as you can in a movie. So we have this song called Pretty Baby. And she is being very aggressive with Marty. And between John Rando and our choreographer, Chris Bailey, they worked out chore- chore- choreographed number where it's sort of a reverse courtship dance where she just keeps coming after him. And it's really funny, uh, made even funnier by the fact that the song is kind of a spoof on the girl groups of the 50s, the doo-wop, the
Right.
Shirelles, uh, and like that. So we actually have three three more Lorraines show up as the backup singers in that.
Yeah, like peek in through the bedroom window,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
this
yeah,
whole
yeah,
production
yeah,
number,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
becomes less
yeah.
cringy too, because I know when you go back, it's like that scene can be cringy. It's, because he
Yes.
even says, it's my mom, you're my mom,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
it becomes this whole 1950s musical that takes you to a different place. It's unbelievable. The special effects, because the whole time we're sitting there, and I will say, if you get a chance to go see it, I'd say maybe try to get seats in the first 20, 30 rows, because I think there's an enhanced experience maybe for individuals that go. Um, and I don't want
It's
to give
also
anything, but
great. That effect is also great if you sit in the first two rows of the mezzanine.
oh, okay,
That's a
okay.
great place.
I'll I'll
It's
have
a
to try
great
that
place
one
to
next
see
time.
it. Yeah, yeah.
But it's like I kept saying, there's no way they're going to get the DeLorean up to 88 and do the whole chase through the at the beginning of the film. There's no way they did it. There's no way they can do the clock tower. There's no way, because it's geographically in two different places. Doc's up on the clock tower. He has to do a thing while Marty's driving through the whole town square. There's no way they did it. I just what blew you away the most when you saw how they pulled something off? What was the one thing you went, I don't know. Yeah, you got it. You nailed it.
Well, we were involved a lot in in the DeLorean effect because we had to test and we knew what we were trying to do. And then it was a question of in our very first previews in Manchester, England, the clock tower scene was about twice as long as it is now because and Sylvester and I were the two guys saying, cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. But all these other guys from theater, they were so excited about, oh, we can have the car do this, we can have the car do that, we can have the car do this. They wanted to do every single thing that they could with the car. And Sylvester and I kept saying, no, you don't need to do every single thing. You just need to give them enough that they'll say, oh my God, oh my God. And you don't want to wear out the magic trick too much. So after testing it, seeing it long, then we cut a little more, we cut a little more, cut a little more. Finally, when we got it down to about 6 minutes, it was perfect. It was perfect. The, but I'll tell you the one number that blew me away was it works. The first time I saw that, because
Yeah.
now I've seen the rehearsals, right? We have a mock-up DeLorean car, and uh, sort of a spoiler, but maybe not. Um, the number is Doc celebrating the fact that at Twin Pines Mall that the DeLorean worked, and out of nowhere appear these six chorus girls wearing silver racing outfits as accompaniment. And to put the right spin on it, because Roger Bart, who normally plays Doc Brown, he says, "So, Bob, John, who are these girls really? I mean, they can't like be the cleaning staff at Twin Pines Mall at 1 o'clock in the morning." And I mean, he was saying it facetiously, but he was also thinking about it because, okay, we're used to musical theater where people just show up and they start singing and dancing. So we said, well, let's embrace that. And Marty says, Doc, who are these girls? And he says, I don't know. They just show up anytime I start singing. And the audience loves that. And it
Lost it.
really kind of says, okay, this is the kind of show that this is.
Yeah.
Now, the first time I saw that, I knew that I had never seen car on the rotating turntable with the video effects and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
I was laughing so hard I had tears in my eyes. I
Yeah.
really was. I
That was a
just could
moment.
not believe how absolutely brilliant all these things came together with the dance number, the singing, the lighting, um, the fact that the turntable moved one way, the girls moved the other way. It's just really
It's
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 you just
mind blowing. Yeah.
laugh. You just have to laugh, and it's a celebration.
Yeah. Like I said, it's so many throwbacks to the movie, but then, jettisoning some things from the movie that wouldn't have worked on Broadway, but it works flawlessly in the play. So it gives you that fresh take on a classic story. I've got to ask you, so, we always talk about what's next. We know you're not doing any prequels or sequels. That's out the window. We appreciate you protecting and preserving, how perfect this trilogy is. But we've got a hit, Back to the Future, the musical. You mentioned it's going to be going to other countries. It's touring. It was here in It was 2 hours away from me in Cleveland. Hopefully, it'll be here in Columbus. It'd be nice to see it.
At some point, I
Um,
guess it will be. Yeah.
Back to the Future Part Two, the musical.
No, 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 no. No. One of the interesting, why not?
All
Why not?
right.
Okay, okay. Because when I get into something, I go all the way in, right? I want to understand it. I want to understand, why do some musicals work? Why do some not work? What's going on here? And I had a great teacher in John Rando, because he said that all of the great musicals have to have a love story. They absolutely do. It's just one of those things. It's perfect. People sing, they want to sing love songs to each other. That's what we do in musical theater. Back to the Future Part Two is all plot and no character. Um, it's there's no love story there. It's cool, it's great, it's wonderful, and it's warped and it's insane, but there's no love story. Back to the Future 3, that has a love story. That, if we could figure out a way to not do part two, maybe that could be a musical. But the first movie works so well as a musical. At a certain point, you kind of say to yourself, okay, you want to quit while you're ahead. You you go back to the well another time, and sometimes that's not a good idea. And if there's anybody that understands why Back to the Future works, it's me. And so it's like, okay, this really does work. And they want it in Japan. We're going to open in Japanese in April in Tokyo. We will probably have a Korean production. We are talking about doing it in Germany. It's going to it's going to play all over the world, I think. So we are talking about doing some other type of things involving Back to the Future. Um, they are, I can't, I thought something was going to be happening um, uh, this coming year. It turned out that we're dealing with the bureaucracy of Universal, and sometimes things don't happen on the time schedule that you want. But on at the same time, we were kind of with the musical, we were kind of thinking, okay, wouldn't it be great to get this thing open in 2015 in time for the 30th anniversary? And it didn't work out. And okay, it didn't work out. It opened when it was ready. There's
Yeah.
a there's a great saying in the video game business. I love this saying. They say a game is only late until the day that it ships, but a game that's crap is crap forever.
Is that like the ET, the Atari ET game that got buried in the landfill? That one falls
Yeah,
into that category.
yeah, because they had 3 months to do it,
Yeah.
and it's a fascinating story because
There's a
the
whole
guy that
documentary about it.
the guy, yeah, I saw that documentary. The fact that he actually made the game and it's playable, even though it's not very
Yeah.
good, but he pulled it off.
Well, what we appreciate it too as fans is how you and Bob Zemeckis have protected the integrity, protected this legacy. Like you said, even at the time of making the movie, realizing partway in this isn't working, the comedy's not clicking. There's a disconnect in the chemistry, and basically starting from scratch. That was a bold move. That was almost unheard of at the
It was
time,
unheard of. Yeah,
but you knew you had something that you had to protect. And in reading this book, creating Back to the Future, the musical too, it's like there's so many things that come up where, like you said, somebody was like, well, you know what? Thank you. We'll take the story and we'll move it over here. no, we have to hit these core people. The love and respect that everybody is involved is evident on the stage when you watch this musical. Everything about it screams love for this franchise. So, like you said, however long it took to make it, that was the time it was supposed to come out. So, whatever you guys are cooking up, it's going to come out at the right time. And I don't know, there's probably a quote from Doc Brown about time.
Your
That's a
future's whatever you make it, so make it a good one.
That's it. Make it a good musical, make it a good movie, make it a good comic book, right? I mean, that's the most mind-blowing thing. And I love the fact that you do have some callbacks in Back to the Future Part 2 and Back to the Future Part 3. And I don't know if those are yours,
Oh yeah,
but these
oh yeah, all the Easter eggs. Believe me, I was there every rehearsal, every
okay.
every single preview. I was there, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, there's a bus bench there. We're going to put an ad for Hilldale on that, and the fans of Back to the Future Part Two are going to get that, and
Yes.
nobody else will, and it doesn't matter. And the disappearing photograph, instead of it being at the wishing well that we just kind of threw this thing together at Amblin because there was a wishing well there. If you ever went to Amblin, the shark from Jaws is sticking its
Yeah.
nose up. But
Yeah.
I said let's make it Monument Valley. Let's that's a tribute to Back to the Future Part 3.
Yeah.
And
And isn't
the
there a banner like one of those little I was kept trying to focus
in
on it
Doc
during the play,
Brown's
but I
in Doc Brown's, yeah, for
Clayton,
Clayton
is it
Ravine.
Clayton
Clayton
Ravine?
State, yeah, Clayton Ravine State Park. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
just kept seeing that. And then all of a sudden, part of my brain, and this is why I want to see it so many times, part of my brain kept wanting to look for Easter eggs. But then I'm like, no, don't miss the story.
right,
Get wrapped
right,
up in the
right,
story. You can figure out the
right,
rest later. Do you have a
right.
favorite Easter egg that you've put in?
Well,
Uncle
I'll
Huey?
tell you the most obscure Easter egg that's
Yes.
in this, and only one person picked up on it. Um, in Doc's lab, he's got all this stuff on the walls and shelves full of junk. And there's a crate that says Gottlieb and Company. Gottlieb and Company was the world's largest pinball machine manufacturer for a while.
Oh.
So that box is supposed to represent the used pinball
Used
machine
pinball machine
parts.
parts.
And the
Oh
only
my
guy that
goodness.
noticed, the only guy that noticed that was the guy that built our Back to the Future pinball machine. He's a good friend of mine, actually invested in the show.
That's
And, you
fantastic.
know, and that's like, okay, nobody gets this. D.
Yeah.
Gottlieb and Sons, it's there for those that, again, and it doesn't matter whether you get it or not, but it's
Right.
there. And it's like, okay, this is kind of fun for me to put this kind of stuff in here. And maybe people get it and maybe they won't, but I sure have a good time.
Well,
And
no, that's
then,
the funny part because there's some things, and again, no spoilers on this one, but like there's some things that can't work on the stage play that work in the movie. So some things are tweaked a little bit, but having
right,
that in there is a nice little nod to something that was
yes,
changed.
yeah,
If that's
we can't do the skateboard chase in the show. Too
right.
dangerous. The idea that
Yeah.
we're gonna have somebody play Marty McFly who can sing, who can dance, who can be funny, who can act, and do skateboard stunts. No, never gonna happen.
Yeah.
And why risk the health of an actor by asking him to take a chance on breaking his ankle every night?
Right.
So that was one of the first things
And you say
to
that though,
make.
but there is some skateboarding in it. There,
Yes, there is some skateboarding in it,
because I'm like, they
but
can't do the skateboard.
straight
I'm like,
it's straight
skateboard.
line skateboarding.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not,
just,
yeah, yeah, it just goes straight across. It's fine,
but it's
right?
enough. It's
That's
plenty though,
that's
because it
safe.
gives us,
But
yeah,
it gives you a call out to the movie, and
yeah,
you're happy with that. And we don't do the Darth Vader scene because you're not going to have an actor sing with his head covered with a
right,
mask. They didn't figure that out on Spider-Man, the
right,
musical. What were they thinking? But
right.
there is a callback to Star
There's a
Wars
callback.
in it. And
Yes.
so we did that
There's a
kind of
little,
stuff.
a lot of classic sci-fi, not just Star Wars, but there's some other classic sci-fi
Yeah.
that takes place in there that so for fans of any sci-fi aspect are gonna love this. And like I said, there's Uncle Huey. You get, little lines like that. There's so many things in there that it's almost like, I mean, and you could probably adapt that as you go too. I mean, there's probably little things you can throw in as you go to different countries or as the show expands, I would think.
Oh, well, yeah, because obviously when we translate the movie, the show into different languages, just like with the movie when we translated, there were certain verbal jokes that weren't going to work. In uh, you know, density and destiny, um, those two words aren't going to be similar in any other language except English. So the marching orders are find two words that can get confused and be funny. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, they'll figure it out. They will. And that's they may use the movie translation that was done in those countries as a benchmark because they're used to hearing certain words a certain way. I know in Japan, um, one of the hardest things they had to translate was butthead because they don't they don't they don't insult each other over there the way we insult ourselves over here. We have a good time insulting each other and doing
Yeah.
that, but
I
that
wonder how
there are
that's going to play up
people.
in Canada because they don't really, they're so polite up there. I wonder if that would, does
Yeah, but
Butthead play in Canada?
they've seen the movie.
All right.
They've seen the movie so many times it doesn't
Have you
matter.
gotten feedback from the cast? I know they've seen it. I know, Michael J.
Oh,
Fox
they
seen it,
love it.
Christopher
Cat
Lloyd.
loves
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. Christopher Lloyd has seen it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox came to our gala opening last July.
Yeah.
Leah Thompson has seen it 2 or 3 times. Huey Lewis has seen it 2 or 3 times. So they just love it. And we, in fact, we actually we actually have a uh, poster at the Winter Garden Theater with the cast, quotes from the cast about how great it is. Um, thank you, Roger Bart, who plays Doc Brown normally. He said to me, Bob, he said, nobody cares what the critic for the New York Times or the New York Post or Newsday said. I think they would rather hear what did Michael J. Fox think about it? What did Christopher Lloyd think about it? I
Yeah.
said, you know what, Roger, you're absolutely right. And so I called up everybody and I said, I want a quote from you, if you'd be willing to give us one. And they all did.
That's great. I think I took a picture of that on the way out as we were going. It's such an experience. You guys pulled off. Like I said, I had to ask you about because I could only imagine what a Western would be as a Broadway musical. Again, just keep it in your mind. Who knows, 10, 15, 20
Yeah,
years from
I
now,
have no
you never
idea.
know.
I have no idea whether I would tackle another musical. I don't know. I got to tell you, it was, as far as the creative experience goes, it was probably the best creative experience of my life because
Wow.
everybody wanted to
Wow.
be there. We made the movie, nobody knew what it was going to be, right? You just
Right.
say, oh, okay, we're making a movie. It's a job. I'm doing this. Maybe it'll be good, maybe not. But when it came time to adapt it, everybody knew what Back to the Future was. And they
Right.
said, oh, man, this is Back to the Future. The cast, I'm in Back to the Future. And
Yeah.
they had the first time they do this thing called a sitz probe, which is the first time that the cast sings the songs with a full orchestra playing. And you go to this rehearsal hall. It's not necessarily the theater where you're doing it. And um, the music director just said, playing the overture, playing the Back to the Future theme without any warning. And the cast went out of their mind. They were so giddy hearing that theme played by a live orchestra.
Yeah.
They could not believe how they were getting goosebumps. It was great. It
Yeah.
was just great.
It brings back a flood of memories. It's all nostalgia. It hits all the right buttons for those of us who grew up with it. And I think, as Zemeckis said, I think you said going into it, it stands on its own too. If you have never
Stands
seen
on
the
its own.
film,
That was important.
just go
We
see
had
it.
to, people had to know that if they've never seen the movie, they're going to have a great experience. I had actually had people come up to me and say, I'd never seen the movie, and I was glad that I hadn't seen the movie because I didn't know how the story was going to turn out. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Are they
You
going to
know
get
that.
together at the end? Is he going to disappear?
Yeah,
Who knows? I
yeah.
think
What's
that's
going to happen?
amazing.
What's going to happen to Doc Brown? Is he going to be dead? Yeah.
That's fair. And the way they handled that was perfect too. It's flawless. So we talked a little bit about, well, look, you guys did it. You guys did it. You guys did it. And we're so thankful you did. You mentioned we're coming up on 40th anniversary here. So we've got possibly a new documentary, which follows basically the sort of
We're we're
explosion
we're also
of,
we're also in post production on a documentary about the making of the musical. So
oh,
um,
wow.
I
Okay.
don't know when that's going to come out. They're still
Okay.
in post on it. It's supposed to be finished months ago, but
You never
things
know, but it'll be out when it's out. It'll be the perfect
exactly, and
timing on
then
it.
it'll be great. Yeah, it'll
And
be
you said
great.
it's going to other countries. So
Yes,
obviously any other 40th anniversary stuff that you can talk about or something that you
I
hope
can't talk
happens.
about it yet. No.
Okay.
Oh, actually, there's one thing I can talk about.
Okay.
Um, uh, at the at the Universal tour, they've announced this. They're going to have uh, Universal. I think it's called Fan Night, something like that. They're uh, this is in, I believe, April 2025. They
Okay.
thought, we've got Halloween Horror Nights in October, and we keep the park open at night and give people this experience. So they're going to have this fan night celebration in spring, and different parts of the lot are going to be dedicated to different franchises. And of course, the town square is going to be for Back to the Future.
Nice.
So you'll be able to go to you'll be able to go to Universal after 6 p.m. In the month of April and experience all this. What is it? Universal Fan Festival? I cannot for the life of me remember it. But if you Google it, it'll come up because they just
Yeah, we'll
made the
put the link up.
announcement.
Yeah, we'll put
They
the link
just
up
made
for
the
it.
announcement about a week or two ago that this was imminent. They told me about it a while ago
Fantastic.
and asked me to keep mum until they were ready to make an announcement about it. So I think they've announced three franchises, and I think there's going to be more. So, and you'll be able to spend as much time or little time at a particular area as you want.
Wow.
Uh, Partially, I think, inspired by Secret Cinema presents Back to the Future, which is something that they did in London back in 2014. They recreated a version of Hill Valley at the site of the London 2012 Olympics. And um, every every night, 3 or 4 times a week, about 3,000 people showed up there, uh, dressed up in period costume. They were assigned an identity as a citizen of Hill Valley, and you could walk around Hill Valley. You could go to Lou's
Wow.
Diner, get a burger and fries, and then when it got dark, they ran the movie outside. You sat
Wow.
on the town square, and they projected it on the front of the courthouse. It was great.
And you said there's something, but you can't talk about it yet, but there might be something percolating in the back there that we might be able to look forward to.
Yes. Yeah.
That I look, it's the franchise that just keeps on giving. I don't know how you guys keep doing it. I didn't think you'd be able to pull it off, but you did. It works. It works.
It works. It works. A guy actually, you'll appreciate. A guy came up to me in Manchester. This is where we opened the show, and then had to shut it down because of COVID. Um,
Right.
he came up to me and he said, "Mr. Gale, I owe you an apology." I didn't know who this guy was, so why do you owe me an apology? He said, "When you announced that you were making a musical out of this, I thought it was the stupidest, worst idea I ever heard. I went on all my social media accounts and I just crashed it. And I came here tonight with the intention of hating this show so that I could trash it tomorrow. And he said, "Oh my God." He said, "Just like
Yeah.
you, this is so good. I
Yeah.
am going to take back every bad thing I ever said and start proselytizing and tell everybody they got to come and see this." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's dead on. And I'm telling you, I teared up a few times during it. It just brings everything back.
Bob Zemeckis teared up when he saw it the first time
Wow.
because he hadn't been to all the previews. You know, he's off directing movies and stuff.
He is,
So
that's right. Yeah.
he came and he had tears in his eyes. He just couldn't
Yeah.
believe how great it was. So
It it's spectacular. The cast is incredible. The crew is incredible. What they do at the end, and I'm like, even at the end, no spoiler alert, but I'm like, there's no way they're gonna do this. And man, they did it right at the end. And I was like, yep, they nailed it. So Bob, thank you again for doing this. Thank you for
you're welcome,
keeping the
Joe.
flux capacitor humming all these years, keeping it going. We appreciate it. Thank you for continuing to just give us fresh new takes on
And
the story.
and it's my promise to everybody out there that if it says Back to the Future on it, um, it's going to be good. I try to keep it as pure as possible. Every once in a while, something gets through that isn't up to standards. They've got this escape room thing down in Florida. It's not very good. I don't recommend it. But again, they didn't bring me into it until way late. And I said, "Well, you need to change this. You need to change this." They said, "Well, it's too late." Huh? Okay. Um, I'm I'm not going to go out there and promote this. So
You're only the
uh,
parent. You're only the parent of the whole thing, right? I
I
mean, what do
know.
you know?
And most people appreciate that. And some people, they think, "Oh, well, we're just going to do this." And I don't want, I don't want our fans ripped off. I really
No.
don't. It says Back to the Future on it. I want the merch to be quality. I want Back to the Future experiences to be quality. And, it's my legacy. It's Bob
Yeah.
Zemeckis' legacy. We've spoken many times when we die. Our obituary, the words "Back to the Future" are going to be in the first line or two of our obituary. No question about it. That's
Yeah.
great.
And you made sure everybody that inherits anything, don't screw it up. Don't, no sequels,
And
no
they get it.
prequel. Yeah.
And they get it.
Yeah.
Because they see how much we care, and then that
Yeah.
makes them care.
Yeah.
And it does help. Yeah.
You've crafted a musical worthy of the movie. We appreciate it. And it's our legacy too. It's part of our DNA.
It belongs to everybody now. Yeah.
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 And I think we take pride in that. So when we see it, it means something to us. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for joining me again on Comic Book Central. And the next time, maybe the 40th anniversary, we'll come back and see what that is that you could talk about this time.
Okay, Joe. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. I always love talking to you. It's great. And okay, yeah, let's do it.
All the best. Hey, thank you so much.
Okay.